Clarkston. Let's go check it out. Hi, now. I will. It's a great day.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to It's a Good Day When. I'm your host, LaVon Upton, and today it's a good day when new pharmaceuticals are being tested to stop the progression of diseases. Today, we're down at the Quest Research Institute, and as we speak, clinical trials are being held all over the country. Well, I should say they're being held all over the world. I'm excited to be participating in a trial because I have Parkinson's disease. Though I have a mild case, I have many symptoms you may not be able to notice. It's a disease that affects 1 million Americans, and there's still not a cure for it. That's why I participate in trials. This is my 4th one. It's a degenerative disease, and my doctor says if we don't participate in trials, nothing will change. This particular trial is exciting to me because the drug is not just to treat the symptoms, it's to stop the disease from progressing. We're going to be talking to Dr. Richard Roche, who's a neurologist and specializes in movement disorders. He's overseeing the trial, and Dahlia Niles, the executive director of the Quest Institute, will be with us too. Let's go see if Dr. Roche is ready for us. I'm here with Dr. Roche, Dr. Richard Roche. And doctor, could you tell me a little bit about yourself and regarding clinical trials?
Sure. My name is Richard Roche. I'm a neurologist. I specialize in movement disorders, as you're aware. And I've been practicing in this area since 1991. I completed a residency at Yale University in neurology. And that was followed by a clinical and research fellowship at Columbia in the field of movement disorders through the Parkinson's Foundation and the Dystonia Medical Research Foundation. When I moved to Detroit, I set up a practice dedicated just to movement disorders. So although I'm a neurologist, I'm not treating all neurological conditions, just patients with movement disorders. The most common being Parkinson's, that probably constitutes about 60% of our clinic.
Mm-hmm. Is it true you were the first movement disorder specialist in Michigan?
One of the first. For many years, I practiced with another physician who's since joined a different institution, and we were the first movement disorder clinic in the state, and we were the first to bring deep brain stimulation surgery to the state of Michigan as well.
Can you tell me a little bit about being a research investigator?
Well, that's really, it's integral to my job because as a subspecialist in this field, I really couldn't stay on top of things if I didn't conduct clinical trials as well. Clinical trials is sort of, it gives you an inroads to what the new medications and new treatments or therapeutics are for a condition. And so by being involved in clinical trials, you're always ahead of the curve. You're always aware of what medications are in the pipeline and what they do and how to use them years before they might come to market. And so you can anticipate what might be coming, and you can also conduct investigator-initiated trials, which we've done at our center, where we look at what the problems are and we design the clinical trials and then conduct them to find new uses for drugs that may be already approved or find new drugs to be approved for different indications.
How long does it usually take to get a drug on the market after the trial?
It seems like forever. After the trial, sometimes it's not that long, but trials take a long time. Mm-hmm. I'd say typically from when we start and get involved in our clinic, we'll start as early as a phase 1 study, which is There are three phases to most drug trials. There's a preclinical phase, which is animal studies. Phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3 are the human trials. Phase 1 looks at safety and tolerability. A phase 2 trial tries to determine, is a drug effective for a particular condition? And phase 3 is a larger experience, also looking at still safety but also efficacy. And after phase 3, if a drug does well, it may then go on to be submitted for FDA approval. And I'd say on average that process could be about 7 years, but I can think of lots of examples where it took a lot longer. Sometimes it's quicker. Perhaps you have a drug which is an orphan drug for which there isn't any other need, maybe for a disease that doesn't have effective treatment. That may rush it along. But in general, clinical trial phase, the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 is about 7 years.
Well, why is it important for people to participate in trials?
Well, if nobody participates, we'll have no new drugs, right? This process begins at a very basic science level where scientists try to determine if they develop a new compound, what the compound does, and they may test it in various ways in the lab and figure out what the effects might be. And then they need to figure out, will it help people? And that's where clinical trials come in, to determine, is it appropriate? Is it safe to take? And will it help people in a certain condition? Will it fit an unmet need? And if there are no more clinical trials, we'll have no more treatments. This is 2014 when we're filming this. If there's no more clinical trials in 2050, they'll be treating patients with the same medications we have in 2014. I hope that's not the case. Many of the drugs we have for Parkinson's today are very good, but they're not enough. This is still a progressive disease. We can't stop or slow the progression. People continue to progress. We can treat some of the patient's symptoms, but not all the patient's symptoms. So for most symptoms today, we don't have an effective treatment, and we don't have anything that really treats the disease process. So we need new treatments, and new treatments are achieved by new clinical trials.
So when people wonder why there's no progress, the answer is?
The answer is, have you donated to a research foundation like the Michael J. Fox Foundation or the National Parkinson Foundation? Have you volunteered your time? Have you lobbied your congressman? Have you volunteered for a clinical trial? And if the answer is no, you have to ask, are you part of the solution or part of the problem? The clinical trials are very slow. Part of the problem is patient recruitment. And if more patients were altruistic like you and participated in trials, we'd have more treatments for Parkinson's come to market quicker. Part of the delay, 7 years, is that it takes a very long time to find appropriate patients to participate in these trials. And it's not that they're not out there, it's that the vast majority of patients never participate in a trial and never contribute to finding cures for this disease.
And your role in the participation here at the Institute is to continually examine the patient that's participating?
Well, my role here is as a clinical investigator. And so when we may get contacted or hear of a new potential investigation drug, we have to assess whether we think this would be a good trial. If we think there's a high probability that this drug may be successful, and if we think that scientifically there isn't a good rationale for the study, we may not want to be a part of it. But if we think this is a product that may be helpful and may be successful, if we think we can contribute or we have the right population, we may decide to participate. So as an investigator, we're reading these protocols before we even decide if we're going to be part of the trial. If we're chosen, the investigator needs to go to investigators meeting to review the protocol with the sponsor, as well as this is the protocol approved by the FDA, and go over what the FDA expects from the investigators to carry out the protocol. And then once we're recruiting patients into the trial, it's our responsibility to follow the protocol, and that means performing examinations, recording adverse effects, monitoring how patients are doing, and documenting what the findings are.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Dr. Roche, for taking some of the mystery out of it.
You're welcome.
And thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'm here with Dahlia Niles, and Dahlia, would you introduce yourself to us and tell us what the trial is going to involve?
Certainly. Hi, my name is Dahlia Niles. I'm Executive Director for Quest Research Institute. And we've talked a little bit about our Parkinson's disease trial.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay. So the trial will probably take place over 18 months or so. It does involve people with Parkinson's disease and a whole other host of other criteria, as you know. And they're hoping it will help people. It's a very different type of treatment than we've seen, which is very exciting. And we're hoping it will help people with Parkinson's disease.
I'm in phase 1 of the trial, and that'll take about 7.5 months. Is that right?
That's, yes. So phases of trials, though, generally are, they're basically defined by the phase of the drug development. So you are in an early phase trial, but phase 1 can last several years, and they might do several phase 1 studies. And then as the drug progresses, if they get good signal and it's safe for patients and they find that it is actually showing some effectiveness, they'll continue to phase 2, 3, and then phase 4, where it will be approved.
Does it get bumped up every phase, the strength of the drug, or that's
No, actually, what usually happens, actually for drug development, they do quite a bit of dose defining when they're doing the testing with animals. And then in early phase studies, they will pick several doses and they will try and figure out which dose is safe for patients to take, but also gives a good effectiveness in treating the disease. So they would look for things at higher doses that might show headache, dizziness, higher blood pressure, those kinds of things. And then they would say, okay, we need to stop there because patients can't really, we can't tolerate that. And then they would try and see if that dose would be, though, effective on the disease they're trying to treat. So early phase really is about tinkering with doses.
Okay. And you know how they're being affected because you're constantly monitoring the patient.
Yes, absolutely. So
with their vital signs, blood tests. That's
right.
Watching them.
That's right.
Closely.
That's right. And as you know, we pride ourselves really when someone is in a research study. They, as a regular patient, when you see a physician, you might see them every 3 months for something like Parkinson's disease. Spend a good amount of time with your physician and their staff. In a research study, we might see you every other day, every week, depending on what we're looking for, and asking you more ways than you can count, how is your Parkinson's disease?
Mm-hmm.
And of course measuring other things, EKGs and hypertension, and looking for those signals too.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is called a double-blind study. Can you tell me what that means?
Sure. Double-blind, what that means is the medication will come to us, and you will not know what you'll be receiving. And for many of our studies, we might have several different doses. So the patient doesn't really know what dose they're receiving, and it could be placebo in some cases, and the physician doesn't know either. So the clinical team doesn't know. They assume everyone is receiving medication, of course, so that they're watching for all of the same safety signals. But that really helps the physician and the medical team understand, is the drug making an impact on your disease? Right? Because they're comparing it and no one knows whether it's placebo or
drug. Did they ever find
drug.
out?
We do. Many times a drug company will tell us much, much later.
But
they'll give us a randomization list.
The patient never finds out.
We have sometimes told patients, we ask the sponsor if that's okay with them.
After the fact.
Yes, because if you're a patient that was in a research study, for instance, and you didn't know if you took placebo or not, and later on the drug is approved, and they say, well, that medication didn't work for me, but they had placebo. That would be a disservice to them, right? Because that could really be a drug that could help them later on. So we like to tell them.
Well, I'm participating in the Parkinson's study.
Mm-hmm.
What other studies do you have going on?
Well, we are a multi-specialty clinic, so we have research trials going on for people with nerve pain after shingles, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. Those are all very, prevalent conditions right now. what we're seeing a lot of research being done in is right now is really Alzheimer's disease and early stage dementia. So next to oncology and cancer, that tends, neurology tends to be a very active pipeline in research. And so we're fortunate. We deal with a lot of very good neurologists here that are interested in research and interested in talking to their patients about research. So, but I would say a hot topic right now is probably Alzheimer's.
Mm-hmm.
With our aging population and the prevalence of that, and not really having, like Parkinson's disease, no real blood test. So we're trying to have early diagnosis and then early treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So,
is it difficult to get people to participate?
well, I would say many people will participate because they either have treatments out there don't meet their needs. That would be one major reason. Second might be lack of access to good health care. So I think that's a second good reason. And then I think the third is a physician has talked to them about the importance of research. So
Like my doctor.
that's right. So
Yeah.
even though you have, access to health care and probably the best treatment available, it's the best available is not enough. And so patients, I think, that are interested in research understand that, the medications don't get any better unless people will participate. It is the number one roadblock to drug development.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And, drug development takes 7 to 10 years, and a lot of that reason is because it takes a long time to enroll in these research trials.
Mhm. What do you do to get the word out there for people who want to participate? How do they know about it?
Well, many sponsors allow us to advertise on TV and radio, but people are a little bit nervous about talking to someone that they don't know about their health care.
Mm.
So the best way really is for our physicians to talk to their patients. And that is probably the primary way that we boost our database. And then when people meet us and understand the detail and professionalism really required to do a research study, they want to be called next time. If they don't qualify for this one, they want to know when the next study is available. I think the other thing is people that participate in research studies, it's general knowledge that they have better outcome with their disease. So even if this study doesn't help you or any of the subjects, because particularly it is early phase, you know that you are helping the Parkinson's community at large. And for many people, it gives them a feeling of control about their condition, where they might not feel a lot of control, and also learning something about their disease and learning something about their health, because that certainly does occur.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel like instead of just complaining about what's not being done,
That's right.
At least I can participate and do my
That's
share
right.
if
Then
I
do your
qualify.
part. Do
If
your
I
part.
qualify.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know some people probably wonder if you pay for trials.
We do. My philosophy, though, really is that I really don't want a research study to cost anything for a patient. So if they have a caregiver that needs to drive them, or, for many Parkinson's people, they're working, so they have to miss work to come. We are very strict about the visit, the timing of the visits. You can't be late, you can't be a couple days late. It really needs to be on schedule. So I really try to make sure that, gas is expensive, their time is being compensated for. But, in the end, I'll tell you, patients would never say they do it for the money. They would tell you they do it because they have learned something about themselves and they've learned something about their disease.
And I know there's hope for the future.
That's right. That's right.
Well, if they wanted to participate, is there a website? I know there's a common website called clinicaltrials.gov.
That's right.
But you also have a website.
We
here.
do. So my website is questri.com, and we will post studies there that we are enrolling for. And the clinicaltrials.gov website, though, is a newer website that the government put in place several years ago. They require pharmaceutical companies to post new trials there. So it's a great resource for people, and they can search by location and type of disease and see if there's something that's out there for them.
Well, Dolly, thank you for being our guest today and for welcoming us here at the Institute.
You're very welcome.
And helping us understand what goes into a clinical trial.
Thank you. Yes, we really try to get the word out, so I thank you for coming.
And those of you out there, go out and make it a good day.